Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are excited to present this panel. I am Catherine Garcia. I'm the director of the Clean Transportation for All campaign with Sierra Club. And today we're going to talk about why clean trucks are so important and what we can do right now to make sure the US is moving forward on clean transportation and clean air. So in the chat, we'd love to have you drop in where you're joining us from and your name, and we'll be welcoming you. So as we all know, trucks and buses are the leading source of health-threatening air pollution, in addition to the climate pollution they spew. Millions of people in the US live, work, or attend school within a few hundred feet of a major road or airport. And the communities that live closest to high-trafficked roads are often communities of color and are impacted by the burden of pollution every day from trucks and buses, in addition to other sources of pollution. So every day I actually walk or bike ride with my son to his daycare. He's a toddler, he's 2 years old. And I'm always worried about the pollution spewing from trucks and buses that are driving through our neighborhood in Washington, DC. We have a crucial opportunity right now to require manufacturers to produce cleaner, heavy-duty vehicles. And that's why I'm so excited that you're joining us here today. So there's a huge opportunity in front of the Environmental Protection Agency, also known as the EPA, to make serious changes on this issue. The EPA just released a proposal to clean up pollution from some of the most polluting vehicles on our roads. Unfortunately, the current proposal does fall short of the urgency of the situation, which would allow polluting fossil fuel trucks to continue to be sold for years longer than necessary. We're here to demand that they do better. If you're feeling inspired after this panel, please join Sierra Club for a training next Wednesday, April 6th, on how to testify at the EPA's public hearing next month in April. And we will share a chat. We'll share in the chat a link to register for that training. Before we get started with our panelists, I do want to send a special thank you to our team at Sierra Club and our many partners that help promote this event. This work would not be possible without the strong coalition that's in place, and we're eager to have more partners joining us in this advocacy. So now I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists who will be telling them, they'll be telling us a little bit about themselves, and I'm excited to hear from them. We are going to start with Ramon Cruz, president of the Sierra Club.
Okay, I think you can hear me, right? Okay, well, thanks a lot, Catherine, for that. I'm Ramon Cruz. Welcome, everybody. I'm president of the Sierra Club. I use pronouns he, him, his, and I'm speaking to you today from the unceded land of the Canarsie people, the Greater Lenape Territory, otherwise known as Brooklyn. But as many of you know, I come from Boriquen, which is the Taino name of the island of Puerto Rico. Yeah, so very glad to be here and look forward to more discussion.
Thank you, Ramon. Next up, we have Theresa Landrum.
Thank you, Sierra Club, for this opportunity to speak to you. As Catherine mentioned, I am Theresa Landrum from Southwest Detroit 48217. We identify ourselves from our federal zip code because we have been deemed the most polluted zip code in the state of Michigan, and at one time, the most polluted zip code number 3 in the nation. The reason we have been deemed the most polluted zip code is because we are surrounded by more than 42 major and minor polluting sources. However, those are the stationary polluting sources. Today, we're here to talk about the mobile pollution sources, which I will be talking about later. So I am a community activist, not by profession, but out of necessity. So thank you, Sierra Club, again, for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Theresa. Welcome. And next, we have Jimmy O'Day.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jimmy O'Day. I'm the Deputy Director of Trucks at CALSTART, We're an industry-based nonprofit working to change transportation for good. My background is in zero-emission vehicle technologies. I live in Oakland, California, and use he, him pronouns.
Thank you, Jimmy. Welcome. And we are also going to have Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia joining us soon. But we will get started with the first question, and he will join us as soon as he's able to. So thank you, Ramon, Theresa, and Jimmy. You're all coming from very different places around the country. And so it'd be great to hear a little bit about your story and how you're coming to this issue. If you could tell us why is cleaning up truck pollution important to you? And we will start with Theresa.
Thank you. As mentioned before, I stated that we have been deemed the most polluted zip code in the state of Michigan. The reason cleaning up truck pollution is so important to me is because we are home to the only internationally privately owned bridge, the Ambassador Bridge. And in the realm of that, we see more than 90,000 trucks a day riding within our neighborhood to get to the Ambassador Bridge. Last year alone, we had more than 2.5 million trucks cross through our neighborhoods to go to Canada. And so in that, we have 75 schools that are along the major thoroughfares. And we have learned over the years through studies that there is a direct correlation between diesel fuel emission and learning disabilities in our children. Not only that, we've also learned that densely populated areas that are living within 500 feet of a major thoroughfare has high rates of mortality. And we see in our children high rates of asthma, as well as in latter years, we've seen an increase in asthma among our adults. So it's important to me that we address the issue of nitrous oxide, which we call it black carbon, coming from the emissions from the trucks that are located near our homes that travel daily along the major thoroughfares through our communities. So that is why this initiative to reduce nitrous oxide is so important to me, because in our community alone, we see high rates of cancer, high rates of asthma, high rates of COPD, and our area is an area that is highly concentrated with PM10 and PM2.5 particulate matter. And that triggers asthma, and it also triggers and exacerbates other chronic diseases that my community is plagued with. So that's why it's so important for us to fight, to clean up these nitric oxides that are having an adverse impact on our health. Thank you.
Thanks, Theresa. And I just want to call out that number that you said, 90,000 trucks a day. And I know that frontline groups all over the country are doing these truck counts to really draw attention to the fact that there are so many trucks on the road. And unless we get cleaner trucks on the road, they're going to keep spewing pollution, keep spewing dangerous, toxic diesel pollution. So thank you for calling out that number. Next up, we have Ramon Cruz.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So, why is cleaning up truck pollution, important to me and to us at the Sierra Club? This CPA rule, has the power to clean up climate pollution, from the nation's worst polluting sector, which is the transportation sector, and make the air easier to breathe in communities across the country, like what Theresa was describing, But that means that, EPA must make their proposals stronger. This is so important for climate, for health, and for environmental justice. Last year, Sierra Club, with a diverse coalition of groups, mobilized thousands of people to make the EPA's rule that regulated pollution from cars stronger. Altogether, our coalition sent over 200,000 comments, and the EPA actually listened. and they, we saw last year, what could happen when people mobilize to advocate for something that would make their lives better, which is why we're mobilizing again, even louder for this rule. There hasn't been anything like this, in the last 20 years, something like these federal rules. But 20 years is a long time to let trucks burn dirty diesel and other fossil fuels. If something like this is not becoming stronger, our communities have waited long enough already. So there is no reason why the US should be moving slowly to slash air pollution or tackle the climate crisis. We cannot gamble, with people's health and the health of their children. So for too long, we have allowed industry to go unregulated and allowed fossil fuel trucks and buses to spew toxic exhaust into communities. So this has only gotten worse as the pandemic shifted, shopping habits and increased the transportation of delivery of goods and how people transport themselves. Environmental justice advocates have been asking for the government to take action on electrifying freight for years now. So there is no excuse for EPA to further delay real action with a weak rule. You can't have climate change without sacrifice zones, and we cannot allow people to be sacrificed in the name of profit. So our current transportation system was created by people, and its problems can be solved by people as well. So electric trucks and buses, are here and they're ready to make a difference in people's lives. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramon. And it's so important that you brought up that we've been waiting 20 years for this rule, for an update to this rule. And all the while, the technology has really accelerated. And I'm excited to pass it to Jimmy, who can really tell us about where the technology is and a little bit more about his story.
Yeah, I really love that idea, Ramon, that people created the transportation system and people can change it. That's very powerful. Yeah, 3 reasons that I want to share why it's so important to clean up truck pollution and how we can. The first is that we get so much bang for our buck with clean trucks. There's a relatively small number of trucks and buses on the road compared to cars, but they really disproportionately contribute to air pollution and climate emissions. Trucks and buses, they use so much more fuel per mile than cars, and they drive a lot more miles. So for example, compared to cars, trucks and buses use about 3 to 5 times more fuel per mile, and they drive about 3 to 10 times more miles per year. So that's just a lot more emissions. An example of that, just really the disparity in fuel economy, a garbage truck gets only about 3 miles per gallon compared to the 25 miles per gallon that a new car today gets. And on the mileage side, trucks and buses drive anywhere from 30 to 100,000 miles a year compared to the 11,000 miles that an average car drives. The second reason that reducing emissions from trucks is so important is that trucks are on the road for such a long time, 15 to 20 years plus. And so policies set today will have impacts far into the future. And like Ramon said, it's been 20 years really since the last policy to reduce emissions from trucks came along. EPA's Clean Trucks plan includes requirements that wouldn't start until 2031 for new trucks. And a truck sold in 2031 is going to be on the road in 2050. So it's so important that EPA sees the opportunity to set a strong policy today because it will affect us long past tomorrow. The third reason why it's so important to reduce emissions from trucks is that we can. We have the technology, we have solutions today. So at CALSTART, our tracking of the industry shows that over 100 models of zero-emission trucks and buses are available today, with many more coming in the next few years. electric trucks and buses are available in really every category, from small delivery vans all the way up to semi-trucks. And yeah, even semi-trucks, which is maybe surprising. And there's a lot of applications for electric semi-trucks and local and regional applications today. Long haul is obviously a harder case, but there's companies even working on that today. So these vehicles, they have ranges of over 200 miles, which is well within the range of so many truck and bus applications today. One of the most telling signs of how far the electric truck industry has come is that two major manufacturers of diesel trucks, Volvo and Scania, they've made public commitments to achieve 50% of their sales to be electric in 2030. And so if diesel truck companies are making public statements and press releases about an electric future, surely the EPA should too, and hold these companies accountable to the statements that they're making in the press. So really, in short, the technology is here, but we need the policy to match it.
Thank you, Jimmy. Exactly. I mean, that's worth repeating. The technology is here and we need the policies to match it. So we need to say that loud and clear to EPA. So we're going to switch gears to how have you been advocating in your community, and what do you see is really the solution to getting cleaner trucks on the road? So first up, we're going to start with Ramon, and over to you.
Sorry, I have to unmute. Sorry about that. Well, thanks for that question, Catherine. It's been really amazing to see already 6 states, so far adopting policies to clean up pollution from trucks. And this has happened from coast to coast, covering about 20% of the entire market for trucks right now. One of those states is New York, that it's where I live. And Sierra Club chapters have been involved in coalition in these 6 states to push for strong state regulation. And it's one of the reasons we're urging the EPA to go big on this federal rule. Right now, as proposed, this rule doesn't even go as far as some state policies in helping to get electric trucks on the road. So there's also been a lot of momentum on electrifying school buses and transit buses. New York has 50,000, think about it, 50,000 diesel school buses on the road, a huge source of pollution that creates health problems for both children and their bus drivers. And very recently, New York has set a target to make sure that all school buses in the state are electric by 2035, which is great, but the way we get there matters. And Sierra Club's New York team is working with environmental justice and labor partners to urge Governor Hochul to ensure dedicated funding for electric buses, school buses, and in the budget, and to prioritize underserved communities like the South Bronx in this transition to clean energy and electric school buses. And all kids, we believe that all kids deserve a clean commute to school. There is a lot of momentum right now from the Biden administration to the state level on electric cars. And this is important and long overdue. And we must make sure that, this same energy is applied to our biggest and most polluting vehicles as well, while also creating good union jobs. So while state and local progress is in the heart of, a lot of the climate work we do, it is important to see federal leadership on this issue so that all communities can access cleaner air. We need to see a clear action plan from the Biden administration, and that means a strong trucks rule that doesn't cave into, to the industry lobbying that, for loopholes, etc. So we need that strong truck rule. Let's stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramon. And I'm glad you brought up school buses, because often we're talking about clean trucks, and this rule kind of is alluded to as just referring to trucks, but it also includes buses, and particularly with school buses, that pollution is really harming the youngest generation, our kids, and the communities around the school districts. And so I'm really glad you brought that into focus, because this rule will cover school buses and make manufacturers that are producing those school buses accountable. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy. What are you seeing as the biggest solutions here?
Yeah, so what I've been advocating for is that the technology is here and ready, and that we need policies really to send that market signal to enable the transition to clean trucks and buses. And like Ramon mentioned, a lot of the progress we've made has been at the state level, and that's where a lot of my work has been. And really kudos to the Sierra Club and its volunteers, including our moderator, Catherine, for playing such a critical role in the progress we've made at states. And like Ramon said, 6 states have adopted a policy requiring electric trucks to be sold in their state. So California, Oregon, Washington, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts already. And we expect more states to adopt that policy. If these states can adopt this policies for electric trucks, and Ramon said, 20% of the market is represented by these 6 states alone, surely the EPA can as well. And the way that these policies work, starting in 2024, truck manufacturers, and there's really only a dozen of them or so, have to sell an increasing fraction of electric trucks in these states. The policy starts at 5 to 10% of sales, depending on the truck category, increases to 2035, 40 to 75% of truck sales, depending on the category. And that's just at a very different place, where EPA's current proposal is about 1.5% of truck sales in 2027 is what they expect to be electric. So these states are at a far different place than where EPA is at. EPA has a lot of catching up to do. And I think it's with advocacy and people power, like Ramon mentioned, that will move the needle with EPA. The other interesting and important advocacy that's been going on is around financial incentives to really get this industry off the ground. And the good news there is we've had an unprecedented level of financial support for zero emission trucks and buses. A lot of this support is coming through the infrastructure bill that was passed by Congress and the president signed into law last November. And so there's particular funding for transit buses, zero emission school buses, charging infrastructure, and trucks and infrastructure at ports. So really exciting that is in the works to help get this industry off the ground. In California today, the state opened up a pot of funding, its largest ever, for incentives for electric trucks and buses to the tune of $430 million, which will go a long ways and hopefully spur the industry far beyond California in getting this market off the ground. But for all the great work on incentives that has happened and will continue to happen, ultimately we need policies, particularly at the EPA, to set strong requirements that transition trucks and buses to zero emission technologies.
Thank you, Jimmy. And I'm glad you mentioned those incentives, because those are so important, and we need Congress to do more. And we're still advocating for more funding from Congress. I will pass it to Theresa. What have you been advocating for in your community?
Thank you so much, Catherine, for that. Ramon and Jimmy mentioned things that were being done from the federal level and from the state level. But me being a community activist, we have to look at the local level and what can be done now. Electric vehicles being produced on a mass scale are on the horizon, and they're not in mass use because the production has not been done yet and is in the works. But from a local level, we're looking at anti-idling ordinances. We have one in the city of Detroit, anti-idling for trucks and for school buses. As mentioned, our children get on those school buses, they're idling, and they're being impacted by the emissions coming from those buses. And, I mentioned 90,000 trucks a day going through the city of Detroit, and maybe another 40,000 buses with those trucks. That's over 100,000 vehicles, diesel fuel emissions polluting the air. So the anti-idling ordinance is very important. And second, here we're also we advocate for monitoring around truck hubs, monitoring the air around concentration of school buses so that we can have real-time data on how much emissions of black carbon are being put into the air. Not only that, we're really advocating for the vehicles that are in service now that are not electric or do not have pollution control. So we're advocating for mass retrofitting of school buses and trucks, in which we've had a couple of organizations receive grants where they have actually retrofitted some school buses in Grand Rapids and around the Detroit area, as well as they have also supplied some retrofitting for small truck companies that cannot afford the cost of pollution reduction control. So what we can do now, from a community level, we're advocating for monitoring, anti-idling, retrofitting of trucks. And not only that, we're also advocating for designated truck routes to get the trucks off the streets that have schools, because I've worked with the Sierra Club on the school siting. We have more than 75 public schools that are along the thoroughfares of major hubs that have these trucks and these buses. So from a local level, we're advocating for retrofitting of the trucks, monitoring of the air, designated truck routes, and for anti-idling ordinances, as well as we're talking to the state to allow more grant money to come to communities that are impacted for health studies for our children and for our community residents. So we're doing some things that we could say are proactive now, because 2027 is not coming soon enough for my community that has been impacted heavily by black carbon, nitrous oxide, and PM 2.5 and PM 10 matter. So those are some of the things we're actively doing now. The Sierra Club, along with Southwest Detroit Environmental Vision, and also with another group, that organization that I'm with, CAFE, which has done a health study on the ambient air quality from black carbon, i.e. diesel fuel emissions. So those are some of the things that we're doing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Theresa. Thank you. It's so fascinating to hear what you're doing on the ground, and just so important. And I'm glad Sierra Club is right there with you, supporting your campaign and all of the important measures you're taking. Our last scripted question here is really referring to the EPA hearing that's coming up in a couple weeks. So the next the hearing is actually scheduled for April 12th and 13th. It was just announced this week. And we want to know, what are you going to be telling the EPA? So first up, we have Jimmy.
Yeah, and I'll just plus up the great work Theresa's doing. The EPA's proposal won't start until 2027, and there's a lot of years between now and then that reducing emissions is really important. For the EPA's proposal, what I'm going to tell them is that their Clean Trucks plan will impact the next 30 years of air quality in the US, and that it's critical that they get this policy right. And getting it right means sending a clear signal towards the widespread adoption of zero-emission trucks and buses, and it means reducing emissions from combustion engines that will continue to be made during this transition. I'm going to tell the EPA what I mentioned earlier, that the technology is here and we just need the policy to match it. And yeah, really looking forward to hopefully a really strong turnout from the community to let EPA know that they need a strong rule and to seize this opportunity.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, Sierra Club is doing everything we can to encourage folks to register, and we're sharing how to testify, pointers, and scheduling a training. And definitely, we encourage everyone watching to sign up to testify, and also tell their networks and tell their fellow advocates to sign up. I am going to first. I did want to just clarify at the top of the program. I mentioned that we were going to have Congressman Garcia join us from Illinois. I do want to just point out that he's actually voting right now. He's on the floor voting and has not been able to join us, but we're hoping that he can join soon. But of course, we thank him for all of his work and for being such a champion for these issues. And just wanted to point that out there for those of you watching. Next, I'm going to pass it to Ramon to answer this question.
All right, thanks, Catherine. And yeah, it's too bad that the Congress member couldn't be here with us right now. One of those things that we plan ahead and everything is set, but of course, his primary duty is to be there in the floor and being a champion for our issues. So in that regard, we're very thankful for him. Now, in terms of this upcoming hearing and what I would tell the EPA, I would tell them, that them, that you, EPA, hold such an incredible power to make a real difference in people's life, with regulations such as this one, so please use the power, to stick to your mission of protecting the environment and human health. And so you have to listen to frontline communities and to advocates to make this rule stronger. So that would be the message that I will be telling them, loud and clear that day.
Thank you, Ramon. And next, I'll pass it to Theresa.
Thank you so much. I echo what Ramon just stated, that we have to be very, very vocal with the EPA to pass stronger laws and work with the Biden administration, not to have executive orders, but to have laws and statutes that can be put into place on state rule as well, because we know that the states follow the lead of the EPA. So we have to be vocal to tell the EPA, please do not allow the money from lobbyists to influence your decision on the health and impact of American lives. And that means that our children are our future. I mean, 2027, who knows who's going to be here? We're here to be protective. That's what it is. Environmental Protection Agency. Well, who are they protecting? They're protecting the American public. So we need these laws to be stronger. We need them to be, I wouldn't say forceful, but be aggressive, because the states follow what they put in place. We do not want the states to have plausible deniability to say, well, it was made by the EPA. Well, we want strong laws to be put into place so that when we advocate at the state level, we advocate at the local level, we can say, well, the EPA says this strong law applies here. Well, then you can follow it that way. So we're going to have to be very vocal at asking for stronger statutes and laws be put into place to be more protective of the American public. Thank you.
Thank you, Theresa. And what you said there is just so on point. It's in their name. They're the Environmental Protection Agency, and their job is to protect us. And they have to set up these rules that really protect us, protect the kids and elderly of our communities and the communities that need it most. I am actually going to take a question from the audience here. And this is really, I think, going to be going to Theresa first. And so you're putting it on the spot here, Theresa. How can we measure our local air? And this comes from a member of the audience that does live on a truck route and wants to know how they can measure their local air.
I don't know what state they live in, but here in Detroit, Michigan, we have a Michigan Public Advocate and in the Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy. And so we can advocate for more monitoring. Right now, we're advocating for more monitoring along the routes in impacted neighborhoods. So that's in place here in Detroit and here in Michigan. I actually work on the Michigan Advisory Council on Environmental Justice up under the Public Advocate. And we have bi-weekly meetings, and that's what we talk about, more monitoring. Also, we're working with the Sierra Club. We're working with a group called Fact Tracker. We're working with with Cafe. We're working with Southwest Detroit Environmental Vision and other EJ organizations that are working to get mobile monitors, purple monitors, where they can be wearable monitors, or you can get a monitor and have it stationary placed on your home to monitor, to get real-time data that you can go from your phone or from your computer and see the air quality for that day. Also, they have air quality alerts. Green is good, yellow is warning, and red is bad. So it can be allowed to, you can visually see where it tells you whether if you're asthma patient or asthma has asthma or COPD. That alert going red means don't go outside and be exposed to the air. So you can advocate to different organizations like the Sierra Club, SDEV, and others to ask how can we, and this is local in Detroit, you can get the numbers off the computer, of websites, and you can call them and say, do you have a monitoring program in process where I can get a monitor placed at my home or get a wearable monitor on my arm? So what you can do is you have to be vocal. You have to identify what truck route you're along. And then from there, you can go from there and apply for the because it's all free to get a monitor on your house, to get a wearable monitor on your arm. So there's some small programs and grants that have been made this possible in the city of Detroit. I hope that I've answered the question.
You have, Theresa. That was perfect. And we do, Sierra Club does work in other communities on air quality monitoring, and having that data is crucial for making strong progress on cleaning up the air. I'm getting this next question over here, and we're going to direct this over to Jimmy. If a strong rule is passed, what is a positive impact that you are hopeful for in your community?
Yeah, in my community, I live in Oakland, California. We have a major port just down the street, about a mile and a half from where I live. And I hope that trucks that operate at the ports and drive through neighborhoods like those in Oakland and other port communities across the country, that the pollution burden is dramatically lessened on these communities. That to me is a major goal and outcome that I hope this policy achieves.
Thank you, Jimmy. And I want to call out a comment that was posted via YouTube. This says, Chewy is my congressman, and he's been a great environmental champion. I've talked to him about the importance of getting zero emission electric transit buses here in Chicago. So thank you, Brian, for that great comment. And I think we have time for one more question, which will be directed at Ramon. What is the best way for someone to have an impact on this rulemaking? Go ahead, Ramon. Ramon, you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I had clicked correctly. That is a great question. However, I see that we have the congressman here with us, so very excited to, pass the microphone to him, if that's okay, Catherine.
Yes, absolutely. We have, let me first start with a question that we had prepared for Congressman Garcia. Let's go with, why is cleaning up truck pollution important to you? And welcome, it's great to see you.
Good afternoon. I am delighted to join you. I just ran off the floor. That's why I'm a little bit out of breath, but glad to join Sierra Club in this conversation about truck emissions and how we can protect environmentally challenged communities to do better. I am delighted to continue to work with all of you on this issue. And of course, look forward to the conversation. Could you repeat the question again? I think I missed the part of it.
Of course. Why is cleaning up truck pollution important to you?
So I live in Chicago's little village on the southwest side of the city. Historically, this community is where the city's manufacturing base has been for a long, long time. With the decline of manufacturing, there are a lot of vacant parcels of land. It is a community that is surrounded by interstate highways and other modes of transportation. It is a part of the intermodal assets of the country and certainly of the Illinois region. What all of that adds up to is that many companies involved in deliveries and in the transportation sector are relocating in that area because of the transportation assets, especially the highways. So that means that the challenge in this community is finding ways to protect people, cleaning up contaminated parcels of land, and of course, looking to create opportunities for employment that are sustainable, that provide a good living wage, and that don't contaminate things, deteriorate the conditions in the community.
Thank you so much, Congressman. I am going to go back to the question that we were going to give Ramon, and then, and that is, what is the best way for someone to have an impact on this rulemaking?
Well, as we mentioned before, you can go through organizations like ours to and go directly to the EPA and present a comment, and again ask them to make a stronger rule. Follow the lead of frontline communities and advocacy organizations like the Sierra Club to present that. So I'm not sure if it's possible to put it in the chat. Put the link on how to participate, how to make your voices heard. And I hope that we here again for the clean car rule, we presented over 200,000 comments to the EPA. We hope that we can, beat our record and put even stronger voices there. Again, this is super important, and it's a rule that have not been looked at for 20 years. I mean, for this kind of regulations. So we cannot wait another 20 years for this. So please get active.
Thank you, Ramon. And just to reiterate, please get active. This EPA is eager to hear from you, and all of your voices matter. I will be passing it over to Rep. Garcia one more time. The hearing is coming up, the public comment is coming up. So what will you be telling the EPA in terms of this rule?
So I will be joining the Sierra Club in its efforts to reduce emissions from trucks. A very, very important issue. I have raised this issue in hearings in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. This issue is very, very important to me. as I've been fighting for my community for over 40 years, and the fight includes, attracting good paying jobs for community residents and ensuring that the long-standing environmental injustices in the community are finally addressed. It's because of that background that, of course, I joined the Sierra Club's call for the EPA to strengthen their proposed rule to require all new trucks sold in 2035 to be zero emissions trucks. The electrification of trucks are very, very important, commercial trucks in particular, as we see more of these facilities and logistical facilities concentrating all over the Metro Chicago region. It is very, very important that we do right by our communities. The communities that I represent, like many across the country, can't wait for us to clean up pollution from trucks and other sources. This pollution, of course, causes more heart attacks and respiratory illnesses and higher rates of asthma in the community. We absolutely need both good paying jobs and a clean environment. We can have both. We need both. And that's what I've been advocating for the last 40 years. And I'm glad to join with you all on a national campaign to get the EPA to do the right thing and to advance and innovate for environmental justice, because we can have good jobs and we can have environmentally healthy communities.
Yes, thank you so much. That was just spot on. We are demanding that they do right by our communities. We need strong, good paying union jobs, clean air, and climate action. And we can have all of those things. So thank you so much to our esteemed panelists. I want to thank everyone who turned in today, and whenever you're hearing this, we are going to be sharing this out, and we encourage you to take action. We're going to be dropping the action alert in the chat here, so please take action. Join our comments here, and please register for the training, which will take place next Wednesday, April 6th. And also, please sign up to testify at the hearing. Your voice matters, and we really want to hear from you. So thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to my team who helped put this on together, and with our partners, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.